If there's something that we've ever noticed, we've ever seen or experienced of capitalism, it's that it is dynamic and continually evolving to deal with its own crises and to deal with its own internal contradictions, many of which cannot last forever. But we see a new form here. We see this new gig economy where somebody signs up to temporarily do something for whatever time it is, and you have full flexibility of your hours, which is a huge benefit. Except that it kind of really isn't. But there is one particular thing I did notice about this gig economy model. It's the efficiency of inefficiency. Take, for example, Uber Eats. How often do you see multiple vehicles sitting outside McDonald's waiting to pick up an order to take it somewhere? So you could see up to 4 Uber Eats drivers and then 1 DoorDash and 1 other delivery service all standing around waiting. So let's just take the 4 Uber Eats guys. They're all going to 4 different locations to deliver those meals. Now think about that. That's 4 vehicles, 4 locations, 4 drivers, 4 times the consumption of fuel, thereabouts. Of course, if McDonald's had its own in-house delivery service, it would be 1 driver, 1 car, and the fuel would be much less. And in the long run, you'd think it would be inevitably cheaper to do it, because you'd be using less resources and less people. But it isn't. It's cheaper for companies to just simply outsource to DoorDash. Having multiple drivers for deliveries in relatively the same area when it could have been done by 1 for much less, and yet it's still cheaper. Think about that. Doing things in an inefficient way is more efficient, at least in terms of cost. Now I ask you, how is that possible? How is consuming more resources to do the same amount of work when you could do it another way, consuming less resources? In lies the whole trick, that is the gig economy. In order for this to be true, the cost must be shifted somewhere else. Gas is going to cost the same no matter what. So what is different? It would have to be the wages. The constant capital isn't going to move. So, here's the deal. Normally you have a delivery driver, you pay him, and then you pay a mileage on his car. But they're not paying mileage on Uber Eats drivers. Just like they're not paying it on, regular Uber taxi service. They've shifted the burden of the constant capital onto those who would receive the variable capital. So they've extracted more of the variable capital, which would be the workers' wages or what they're remunerated, and shifted the constant capital into there, rather than paying it out of the surplus value. So rather than the constant capital digging into the surplus value, they just shifted it onto the worker and ate up his variable capital. So now you start to see why maybe this gig economy is so very, very profitable for the people that own the companies, not the people that are driving. Because one of the statistics that's been proven to be true is that the majority of Uber drivers don't actually make any money. When you factor in wear on the vehicles, many of them actually come up short. They've lost money. Because that burden of the mileage has been shifted onto them rather than being paid for out of the constant capital of the capitalist. So really all Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Uber, and all those things, all they've managed to do is raise the rate of exploitation by shifting a burden of the constant capital onto those who receive the variable capital. Yeah, it's a hell of a job, if you can get it. Because we do need to keep one thing in mind. The most profitable taxi company in the world is Uber, and yet they own no cars. The most profitable hospitality company in the world is Airbnb. Yet they own no properties. Think about that. One can be at the top of their industry without actually owning their own capital. Or at least in terms of real estate and constant capital in that case. So think about that. Because the cost of those have been shifted onto the person that works for them. The employee, as you will. Although they are contract workers or some other such vague definition that would eliminate the possibility of trying to get some kind of unionization or some kind of health insurance or basically any worker rights in general. It's a great scam if you're the person on top. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.